Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in to us here today. Today we have an exciting conversation to go through. We've brought in industry experts from across the country here to talk about tax operations services and kind of weigh the difference or the value of an external model or an outsourced model versus an internal model, and how companies can go ahead and take a look at what they're currently doing today. My name is Chris Ward, and I am the Senior Vice President of Business Development here at EQ. I'm going to be the moderator for today's call. And joining me is an onslaught of people, all from their different respective fields. I'm very excited to have you all here with me today, but I'll have you each do a brief introduction of yourself, and I'll start with Mr. Rich Kent.
Hello, my name's Rich Kent. I'm the CTO here at TAINA. I've been in the financial services field for 25 years now, mainly focused in software development, but I also specialize in information security.
Wonderful, thanks, Rich. And Miss Laurie Hatten-Boyd.
Hi, I'm Laurie Hatten-Boyd. I'm a principal in KPMG's Washington National Tax Practice, and I head up the firm's information reporting practice from a tax technical perspective.
Thanks so much, Laurie. Britt Rhodey.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I am Britt Rhodey, and I'm an initiatives consultant at EQ within our tax team. I really focus in on process efficiencies and projects that kind of help reduce risk and or increase efficiencies.
Great, thanks, Britt. Sean Sutton.
Hello, I'm Sean. I'm the operations tax manager at Equinity. I have a little more than 7 years of experience working in tax reporting and operations fields. I've managed several high-profile corporate taxable events and help oversee the tax team, assuring quality and compliance.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Mr. Rasheed Khan.
Hi, my name is Rasheed Khan. I manage the TAINA North America's division, looking after a lot of our customer needs and requirements. Also look at a lot of our subject matter expertise here at TAINA. Prior to joining TAINA, I spent 20 years at Goldman Sachs managing the tax operations team. I've been doing tax operations for a little over 30 years now.
That is it's great to have you with us here today, Rasheed. And last but not least, Mr. Lyle Lang.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Chris. Yeah, my name's Lyle. I'm currently a tax operations manager at EQ. I've managed several different operations functions over the years, but the one constant in my career is that for the past 27 years, I've been responsible for and managed tax information reporting.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us again. This is an exciting topic, and I think coming out of COVID here, this is a great topic for clients out there, potential clients out there to kind of evaluate, and really anyone that's doing tax reporting. It's something to give a good look at and to take some time to evaluate. I wanted to kick things off here and start with you, Laurie, and ask if you could just describe a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of audit activity, enforcement, and what you expect to see over the next few years.
Yeah, sure. So just thinking about exams in this space, I kind of compartmentalize it into the financial institutions and the non-financial institutions, and I'll start with the latter. For years, probably a decade, the IRS was saying, we're focusing on non-financials. They came out with the Internal Revenue Manual and actually listed targeted industries for exam, and we just didn't see it happen. And I think people got a little relaxed because of that. But over the last, I would say, 18 months, they truly are out in force. They've got territories across the country that are trained. They're out there with the non-financials. And you had mentioned COVID. This is something they've actually been able to continue these exams even remotely. So it is something that we're seeing to continue, throughout this past year. On the financial side, they've historically always had pretty robust exams with financial institutions. What they've done differently now is they're expanding that to pull in the FATCA compliance. They've been training their examiners to know how to examine the FATCA compliance, and they actually had a financial institution that stepped forward to be the target there, so that they could practice how to do this, so we can expect that additional expansion in those exams.
That's great. Thanks, Laurie. And I know, Sean, you've had some experience with audits in the past.
Yeah.
Some relevant experience that kind of led to where we're at here today.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like Laurie actually loves audits and those experiences. I don't know that I'd have the same perspective. I'd call it a misfortune of having to experience an IRS audit. At a prior firm, completing 1042S reporting, the IRS was looking out for that. And so they flagged a couple of our 1042S forms and wanted to dig down. Why did we report the way we did? And it turns out after years of making payments without our proper tax certification documents, the firm was on the hook for all this miswithholding and penalties and interest. And the IRS said, you know what? You should have known this from the beginning, so we're also going to throw on intentional disregard. And it turned into millions of dollars of a proposed penalty. So through this audit process, we really saw that it turned into a W-8 form audit, and that the IRS was very literal with making sure that all our documentation had accurately dotted all I's and crossed all T's. So I just wanted to highlight, you got to follow the instructions that the IRS gives out, because that's how the auditors are reviewing those documents.
It really evolved into them coming in and checking to make sure that when you were taking in these forms, because you, I believe with your previous employer, used an in-house model, right? You didn't have anything from the outside. And it boiled down to looking at actual specific forms on the different account holders that you were making payments to and saying, this form is right, this form is wrong, this form is right, this form is wrong.
Right. Having all the tax certification documents for each individual recipient of funds was very important. So yeah, I just want to say an organization should really self-reflect. Do they have the right processes, procedures in place of reviewing as well as archiving those images? And then the team with the know-how currently set up to help minimize the risk of any potential audit.
Yeah, I think that's a really good transition, and I want to kind of take it over to Lyle next year if we can, because that's really what we're here to talk about today, is to, one, kind of inform people that this is something worthwhile to spend time on, evaluating your internal process and make sure you have that covered. But Lyle, how should a person, say a listener or a company that's watching this, they want to walk away from this, how should they assess their current process and team when determining where the risks are in their own process, and is an outsource model a good fit for them?
Yeah, I think when you look at your tax process, you would look at it much like you would any operational process. Take a look at it from a perspective of technology, process, and people. So from a technology standpoint, unless your business is really, this is part of your core service, I think you're normally going to find some sort of gaps in your system functionality. There's going to be some things that stand in the way of being able to do this in a timely and accurate manner. And I think you need to, reflect on that and proactively flag those types of gaps. Also, what's your organization's commitment to maintaining these systems? This is an area that has frequent changes virtually every year. One, you have to have an organization that's going to be committed to making these technology changes as well. Second area, is process. Not only do you need to ensure that you've got proper procedures and checklists, kind of as Sean had mentioned earlier, many times your process is a product of these system limitations, that include workarounds, and this can be overwhelming. Understand where those are at as well. And then from a people standpoint, ideally you would have a mix of some tax technical people and operations execution personnel on your team that are executing this. But be very key to or observe or understand if you've got what I'd call key person risk, that because of all these workarounds or system limitations, you've got people that have learned how to operate that process and system to deliver the results, but it's very complex, and maybe the knowledge exists in just one person. Be key to understand if you've got that type of risk as well. And again, any one of these flags in these areas are things that would be consideration for a potential outsource model, and can that help plug some of those gaps or remediate some of those flags.
Yeah, I like the way you describe that, because although this does directly, especially with some of the clients that we've serviced and work with, those are the three key areas to review. But it is so true, right? It's check the technology. What works, what doesn't, what is the technology able to do for us today? And most everybody is going to look at that and say, okay, here are the gaps. But we cover those gaps with our process. And the process does this, this, and this to kind of band-aid it together. And then you get to the end and you realize, well, the only reason this process works is because we have that one key person that understands how to put it all together. And so as long as all three of those things stay in alignment and no change, and we're able to keep that going, everything works. But you're right that all three of those are flags. Can we find technology that's going to do more of this to eliminate some of those Band-Aid processes? Can we put in place proven, tested processes with that technology to make that better? And finally, can we make best use of our resources and our people? Potentially, like you said, this may not be their core business. Can we get people doing other things? And I know that I kind of went through it there, but I wanted to go to Rasheed next. And Rasheed, have you talked a little bit about some of the benefits that clients and customers are going to experience when using an outsource model?
Yeah. So, one of the great things about what Lyle just touched on, it's the idea of going through a target operating model and identifying, from a systems and from a people perspective, where you want to be from a target operating model. And doing that assessment, you tend to actually see things like, how do you deal with system maintenance? How do you deal with people turnover? Some of the benefits that you get from an outsourced model is that you can always make sure that you have proper contracts in place with your outsourced provider to make adjustments for new rules and rule changes. We know that 1446 is coming out. Do you want to have to build that yourself in-house, or would you like to ensure that when dealing with an outsourced provider like Equinity or TAINA, that they're actually going to solve for some of that documentation and withholding process for you? A lot of this is about making sure you're using your resources efficiently, effectively. The other aspect of it is about quality of service and ensuring that you are keeping your highest performers engaged in processes that are going to keep them there and in-house, and that things like manual documentation or physically writing journals to execute withholding and to do reporting, you have an actual functioning system that can do those processes for you, taking away some of the soul-crushing labor that you normally rely on people to do. So these are some of the benefits and some of the things that we see an outsourcing model provide. Additionally, it could help you stabilize your cost. And what do I mean by stabilize the cost? You have a fixed contract, you have a fixed period, you know exactly what the rate of expense is going to be. So it makes budgeting a little bit easier, so that this way, when we think about changes or the evolution of the tax process, you know that you have to sometimes people have to put a finger in the wind in order to figure out, okay, how many technology resources am I going to need? What's the actual hardware going to cost me? You actually take that out of the equation, because a lot of that is fixed based upon the product that you purchased.
I like the way that you describe that too, because you're right, with the folks that we have helped out and the folks that we have worked with up to this point here as well, most of them take a step back and realize that, wow, they're actually paying quite a bit for this, just in personnel costs, not only for the team that they have assigned to doing it, but the impact and the hours that are coming out of their own technology team, their own IT team, the other processing departments that are being pulled away from really the business's core activities to help out with these other things. And it really does lead to a positive result there. Laurie, I wanted to go to you as well on this, and just because you have such great insight, being that you've supported many clients that use both models there. But what do you see as some of the benefits of using an outsourced model versus companies that maintain it all internally?
Well, I think the biggest benefit you're going to see is on exam. You think of the IRS examiners, for them, this is a business. We don't spend a lot of time in our business day if we're not going to get a benefit from it. If they're in talking to the taxpayer and they're not going to get a benefit, and their benefit, of course, is money for the fisc, they don't want to spend a lot of time. They need to move on because they want to find the underwithholding that's out there. And that opening meeting on an exam is your time to tell your story. And I don't mean making something up. I mean, it's your time to explain your processes, your procedures, how you identify character and source of income, how you collect W-8s, how you validate them, changes in circumstance, all of that. And when you're able to show that you're using an outsourced model that's been proven because they know it, they've examined other people that have used similar products, you're going to see a whole different approach in your exam because, again, they're going to know when that story that you tell so well, there's not going to be a lot of money for them there.
I love when you have brought that up before in the past as well, because that is such a great takeaway from this, that it very rarely do you think when the IRS comes in that you have the ability to contribute or to control your own path a little bit there. You have ability to impact what this is going to look like. And you talk about that first meeting and being able to tell your story, having a sound delivery of that, being clear with what you're doing, how you're making those next moves, and how that can have a major impact on how deep they go and where they go from there. I think that is such a strong takeaway, and really it's a credit to you and your firm with the benefits of working with professionals in the space to help kind of prepare you for that initial discussion just to begin with. Because going into it blind, you could set yourself up for a long couple of months. There's no doubt about it, right? That could really get there. So we've talked a little bit about the benefits here and kind of how a company could go in and do that. But I also wanted to really focus on the partnership between TAINA and EQ and this tax operations services product. Rich, would you mind sharing a little bit with us about the technology that supports the service? Because I think that is such a difference maker in the way that we're able to execute the volume that we're able to do and the accuracy levels that we are.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. So I guess in a nutshell, I'd say the main value add TAINA brings to the table is focus. Our focus is to ensure the technology supporting the tax operations service is really best in class, whether that be from a compliance perspective, the feature set within the products, information security measures, or the user experience. And the value TAINA adds comes from the time we spend perfecting and enhancing the technology. For example, we spend a great deal of time working with subject matter experts, and we're constantly monitoring regulatory changes. We have technology resources already in place and ready to go. So if we do need to fast track any compliance changes, we can do so in as little as 2 weeks if needed. We make time to work with a range of potential users across the whole range of industry sectors. And by taking the knowledge from across the entire industry, we build product features which really do represent industry-wide best practice, as opposed to in very specific sectors. And of course, information security continues to be paramount. And to that end, we spend a great deal of time to ensure we mitigate every possible security vulnerability. And it's back to focus. We have dedicated technology resources constantly monitoring the product. Because we specialize in this industry, we're able to constantly innovate and really push the boundaries of the underlying technology. So we're constantly seeking to drive the customer experience to new levels. We work closely with a number of universities where we take the cutting edge academic research and transform those concepts into deployable product features. For example, we work with one of the world's leading handwriting recognition experts, and we're super excited about a new cursive handwriting recognition system that we're just about to launch. And we're also working on being able to process and ingest like any form of tax documentation without having to know about the structure of that document. Now, the innovation is not limited to work with the universities, though. We spend a great deal of time perfecting the product from a user experience perspective. And the critical piece here is we also give our employees time to explore ideas, push the boundaries, and really innovate. For example, one of our employees had an idea for a customer-facing tax form system. The idea was adopted. It's been a huge success. Processing time is down over 40%. Rejection rates down nearly 85%. Wow. But yeah, it's fantastic. Well, we're not going to stop there because it's constant innovation. And yeah, it's
No, it's really great. And Rich, one of the things that as we've gone through it and had some conversations on this and got together and worked with previous clients, you really pointed out a really big benefit as well there, which is oftentimes, and my recommendation to anyone listening would be your primary focus is to do it right, be accurate, and make sure that you're prepared to follow those rules and regulations. But honestly, there's a part of this for whether that's your customer or your employees, where filling out these forms and doing and taking part in this, Sean, to your point before in your example of folks having to fill out the W-8 BEN forms or W-8 forms, it's not convenient and it can be kind of a downer process for them. So being able to offer people a technology where they can complete those forms online, where information's made more clear, where there's more information provided, it also adds to the experience that our customers are able to give to their customers, right? It goes with being easy to work with. It goes with matching technology that may be provided through the product that our customers are also providing, and not having this state-of-the-art situation that is followed up with you filling out a paper form and having to mail it in and wait 7 to 10 days for it to get mailed in, and then have a reject or something like that come back, and that takes, and it goes on for weeks. It doesn't match. And so I think that there's a real value add there to the customer experience, which I know we have seen make such an impact, and I know it will continue to make such an impact. And I know that we're combining that technology team with a really strong service team that has a lot of experience in doing this, and that's part of how, when Lyle mentioned before, you're looking at the technology, you're looking at the process, you're looking at the people. Britt, I'm going to hand it over to you here real quick if I can. Can you tell me a little bit about the partnership and the service model and what the focus is for clients?
Yeah, you bet. You really just hit on it, Chris. So we've got these two really important elements. We've got the cutting edge technology that we just heard about with Rich, and then we've got this people aspect. So we've got this team of tax experts who last year produced 4.3 million 1099, 1042Ss. We reviewed 67,000 Form W-8, W-9s, and actually deposited over 254 million with the IRS. So we really have a team that does this, right? They're the experts. So we're able to dedicate real people to the clients, real people that'll work one-on-one to, I guess, come up with objectives, define needs, review timelines, and really just kind of be that partner in crime. I'm not sure that's the right word to use in this form, but to be that partner in crime throughout the life of the relationship. So, it comes down to like the execution, that end product of the forms, of the review, of the withholding validation. That's kind of our expertise, right? That's the easy part. That's what we're good at. We've got the technology, we've got the people, we've got that together. We've created we've created a predictable process that's almost second nature at this point in time. So what this partnership has allowed us to do is to make that the easy part, make that the second nature. We've got the quality, we've got the technology, and now we can just really focus in on the client. We can make it easy for other people, which is, I think, the really cool thing about this relationship, this partnership that we have.
Yeah, I think it really is, and it plays to the what's the old saying: if you have something you need to get done, give it to the person who's really busy, right? Put it out there to get it done, right? You mentioned some of the volumes there, and those are very impressive. But it's a process that works. It's a process that can handle more volume. But I do really like, and a lot of the feedback we've received is, I think when people say that, they'll take a step back and they'll look at their current process and say, oh, this is a mess. This isn't doing it. Our technology is not cutting it. Our processes are covering it. We have this key person risk. However, there are certain things that we do internally where there's no way we could work with someone else, where we're going to make it too difficult. Our deadlines, they won't be able to meet our deadlines. But they get such comfort out of kind of your onboarding process and taking the time to truly learn about a company's corporate calendar, to learn about when these events are taking place, when that information is going to be made available, because that planning process, you get through it all. And honestly, we've had a few folks come back and say that that it just gives them complete comfort. After that's done, okay, we're set up, we're ready to roll, because it is something that's hard for people to let go of. And so having that people aspect, being an extension of their team is really important.
Chris, the tax season doesn't ever really end. We've got our deadlines, we do the work, we get it out, maybe take a day or two, and then we're just really right back into it. So you talk about that partnership. It's not just that one time a year, right? It's through the entire year. The next tax season just starts right away, and we're still talking, reviewing forms, getting data, just getting everything ready, so it just doesn't feel like such a scramble at the end, I guess.
Yeah, no, it is great. And I think the updates, just to build on that, the updates that you provide the clients throughout the year, those are important. One, because I think that the team on the phone here does a really good job of proving out that the work is getting done, that things are getting done the right way. But providing those updates also helps with letting go and providing our clients with transparency and visibility into what's going on, so that they can regularly have that reassurance. I did want to focus a little bit of time, Rasheed. I think I'm gonna take this over to you here. I wanted to focus a little bit of time on what if a company were to make a decision to use an outsourced model, what does deployment look like?
So if you think about it, and Britt touched on some of these things, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you understand where are all the pain points, so that this way, as we start to think about any type of development, if there is any type of customization that we want to perform for that customer, to ensure that we maintain that pain, we actually manage those pain points, and then working with their their governance group, right? Most firms will have a governance team that looks at how do they deploy and implement systems, so that this way we can develop a plan on one, evaluation of the product to ensure that we're meeting all the needs. Then two, the timing around when we're going to actually test, and then ultimately when do you deploy into production? Because in order to do this properly, you have to make sure that they are going to want to make sure that all of their needs are met. So those are some of the key points when we're looking at going with an outsourced model. And it's really a coordination between us and the governance team to ensure that we have a proper plan in place. The deadlines are things that are attainable, and they're not excessive, meaning that they're not so close together that we're going to miss deadlines, so that this way everyone is comfortable that they're going to get what they need in a timeline that they need it. Obviously, another the last key thing is, since we are in tax, we want to make sure that we are hitting a lot of our targets before that year-end cycle starts. Especially since many firms actually have a freeze period where they don't allow for deployment of new systems and new processes, which also happens to coordinate with when most tax people want to go live with their new process. So they essentially have to go live ahead of that freeze point and essentially let it sit on the shelf until January 1st. But these are some of the considerations we take into account as we're looking at deployment.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for joining here. And before we wrap up, I wanted to do a small plug here. If any of our listeners are looking for audit assistance with the IRS, or how to essentially assistance, or want to have a conversation about doing an internal health check, we have shared Laurie's contact information both at the end of this video and in the comments section. Please do not hesitate to reach out. There's a wealth of knowledge there, and a firm that has years and years of experience with this. The conversation is worth its weight in gold. And in addition to that, for anyone that's interested in moving forward with an outsourced model, or wants to learn more about the model, or maybe have a conversation with us about the way that our tax operations service team does this, we've also shared some contact information, again, at the end of this video and in the contact section. But thanks everyone for listening, and we'll look forward to hopefully speaking with you all again. But again, to my attendees, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know all of you are very, very busy individuals, and I couldn't be more grateful for you joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye all.